Welcome back to my channel, you guys. We are going to be doing a more in-depth March reading wrap-up. I read 6 books in March and majority of them were very, very good. I did a TikTok video where I just did like a quick rapid fire yes or no recommendation. So I figured for YouTube, we could do a longer form, more in-depth video. So I read 6 books and let's get into them. So the first book that I read was Deep Pockets by Nana Malone. She sent this to me as an ARC and I was so grateful to be able to read this story. It follows Lance and Morgan. They are like childhood family friends in a sense. So it is an enemies to lovers. She happens to be his best friend's sister. And this book, although there isn't a ton of spice in it, was filled with some pretty good spice. I also very much appreciated the plot of this book. Like sometimes there's books that just are like all spice and there's no storyline to it. This book had such a good storyline. They have like tragic pasts. Hers is with her dad, who is kind of a lunatic. Like I wanted to square up with this man so many times throughout this book. He is like so hurtful to her, and Lance does handle a lot of it. Lance does have a darker past that he is trying to hide from her in a way to protect her. However, she starts to kind of find out like, you're hiding stuff from me. I want to know more about you. So things kind of escalate from there. It does end on a cliffhanger because she is releasing another book, but I absolutely loved this. There is steaminess, there's angst, forced proximity because she does end up moving in with him because of everything that's happening with her dad. Highly, highly recommend this book. And first of all, the cover is so gorgeous and the edges, I'm obsessed. So absolutely devoured this book, definitely recommend. The next book that I read was False Front by Debbie Baldwin. I read one of her books last year and it was so good. This is actually the first one in the series. So it follows Emily and Nathan, who are actually childhood friends. And she ends up getting kidnapped as a kid. And they obviously then lose touch with each other. They then get reconnected as adults, but she is now a different person to conceal her identity so that it doesn't happen again. So when they first re-meet as adults, he does not know who she is. Their story kind of unfolds. He happens to be a defense contractor with his family's company. And while at the same time that they're reconnecting, they're kind of reforming a relationship with each other. She was in love with him as kids. And he starts to find out more about her identity. She starts to find out more about his identity and what he does for work. All while at the same time, her life is still very much in danger. And so as their stories kind of intertwine and reconnect, he is also then attempting to protect her. The plot of this book was so freaking good. Debbie does tend to write in third person, which I do have to be honest, I normally hate. I love first person because I really feel like I can become the character when I'm reading. With third person, it's a lot harder to do that. But the way that Debbie writes, for some reason, it doesn't bother me. I think because there is still some first person dialogue that happens between the characters. So you get enough of it that you can still feel what they're feeling, which is what I love about reading. So I absolutely devoured this book. I loved it so much. Also, highly recommend this one. It's an absolute yes. The next book that I read was Original Sinner by Kate Ballinger. This book was so freaking good. It is about the 7 deadly sins, so each character represents one of the 7 deadly sins. This story happens to follow Lucifer and Charlotte. So it is set in New York City. Charlotte ends up working as an intern for Lucifer's company. He is this billionaire that owns this company in the city. And they essentially get started through, she meets him before she becomes an intern and they have this kind of sexual moment with each other. So then when she starts up as an intern and realizes, oh my God, he's like a complete asshole, he is the devil. She ends up writing this like scathing review about him and his lack of love life. And it somehow, without giving away the plot, gets sent out to like the world. And as this kind of not really punishment, but as a way to handle that, he basically then coerces her into dating him so that he can prove to the world that he is not who she just said he was. And things escalate from there. This book, I loved it so much. There is so much good spice in this, and the plot just completely ate. I loved Charlotte. Like, first of all, such a baddie to have the lore to make the devil fall in love. Like, do I really need to even say more? There is so much else that happens in this book, but I don't want to give away too much of the plot. I would recommend this to every single person that I speak to. Again, I loved this book so much. Please read. The next book, I was also sent an art copy for this, which does say it on the book. Absolutely loved that so much. I know that there are so many mixed reviews on this book, which I think as there should be. I mean, Rena is a very well-known author, and so I think when she does release a new book, there are a lot of opinions that are being shared out there. Personally, I loved this book so much. Do I agree with every single thing that happens in it? Absolutely not. There is so much that happens in this book that I absolutely would not condone. I mean, it's also dark romance. I don't condone any of it that happens in these books in real life. However, while I would so much recommend this book, very, very heavy on read the trigger warnings for this if you have not read this yet. This is a very heavy, heavy book. There are a lot of things that happen in this book that can be very triggering. One being sexual assault. So I very much recommend that you do take the triggers of this seriously. However, I loved the plot in this book outside of that. So this is Caden, who happens to be Gareth's professor. So I think the student professor trope is so incredibly hot. I also did appreciate so much how we got to know Gareth in this book, which it kind of alludes to in the Legacy of God series, that he is like not as golden boy as you think he is. Whoa, this man, I know a lot of people have said he's worse than Killian. I think because of the things that happen in this book, it definitely seems worse than Killian. I loved and devoured this. I thought their relationship dynamic, as like you kind of see Gareth heal throughout this book, and when he starts to essentially feel and express emotions, it was so like heartbreaking and sad to me. And honestly, just so healing. And I know a lot of survivors of sexual assault can get so much out of these books because it is fiction, right? Like you are essentially taking back the control where, you know, in real life scenarios, you would not have that, right? Like you can close the book, you can put it down, you can take a break. So I'm all over the place with this because I love this book so much. I can't even like formulate my thoughts every time I talk about it. However, there's a lot of judgment about people who did enjoy this book. And I just want to put that out there, that I think there is a lot of reason behind that, that a lot of people do find it healing to be able to read about these things and do it in an environment that feels safe and in control, because again, it's fiction. You can close the book, you can take breaks as you need to. So if you're feeling a lot of judgment around that, take that into consideration. I devoured this. I did give it 5 stars. And again, a lot of judgment because I did get an art copy. So people thought I was lying about liking this book. By the way that I can't even form thoughts when I talk about it, I hope that conveys how much that I did actually love this story. So if you've seen a lot of mixed reviews about it, go into it with an open mind and give it a try. Again, take the triggers very seriously, but if those aren't triggers for you, go into it with an open mind, because I did love this story. The next book that I read was Insatiable by Lee Rivers. So I started the Edge of Darkness trilogy. I cannot say enough about this trilogy. I'm actually currently reading the second book, Voracious, and this series is absolutely shattering my heart, but in the best ways. Again, this is also a very heavy series, so take the trigger warning seriously. But Cade and Stacy deserve the world. So this book is filled with intense trauma. And again, they meet as children, they become, friends, and it is her best friend's brother. So very much like secret, forbidden relationship. They fall in love. She ends up having something very traumatic happen to her, in which he sees a video of happening and thinks that she cheated on him. So the entire part of this first book is she is trying to tell him what happened, but the trauma is so deep within her that she physically can't form the words. And it follows just their tumultuous relationship of finding their way back to each other. And this was definitely one of the spiciest books that I read this month, along with Kiss the Villain. And so plot heavy, so trauma heavy. Again, this is another book that I have trouble formulating my thoughts on, because it is so deep, it's so dark, it's so heavy. But I am so obsessed with this couple. I believe, gave this 5 stars. Highly, highly recommend. The last book that I read was Ask Not, and it's about the Kennedy men and the women that they destroy. So I ended up reading this for a book club that I'm in with my friends. I was so excited for this book because based on a lot of the reviews, it really talked about the women in the story and how much you just feel toward the women and what they went through. And while I do agree with that, I did very much appreciate learning about these women and everything that they went through, and the women who did survive and really find themselves again. I so much appreciated that because I love women. We all go through so many things. And so I think that part of it was relatable in that sense. And I mean, these women really go through so much, and this was all based on real life situations. I did come out of this really hating the Kennedy men, which I think is very much the kind of consensus of everyone who reads these books. However, what I did not like about this book is, first of all, it is all over the place. It is past, present, bouncing around, but there is absolutely no insight into where you are in each of the chapters. So I found myself being very lost throughout this entire book. It also, in a lot of circumstances, felt like it was reading as a gossip on the women and what they went through. And it almost then leaves, I think, the reader feeling there was some judgment on the women, which I didn't love. So that is going to conclude my March reading wrap up. I'm now reading Voracious in the second book of the Edge of Darkness series, which I'm absolutely loving. So if you stuck around throughout this entire video and you liked it, hit that subscribe button and let's chat in the comments if you've read any of these books. Thanks for watching.